Chickens. It is a film about these two cops who do this heinous thing, and afterwards they try to cover it up, and we see the aftermath of that. Chickens. We shot in 2017.
Mhm.
Went around the festival circuit. I remember when I first put the movie out, a lot of people who saw it, they went, those cops are unrealistic. There's no way. There's no way those cops are like that." And I said, okay. And it still did really well amongst black people. And
Surprise,
surprise, surprise.
The feature had like 6 months of pre-production just because it was just like a numbers game. It was like just knocking on doors and being like, "Can you shoot here for free?" And we even finessed using our school and the kind of like saying it was it was like we worded it as like it wasn't a college film student project, but like we were film students doing a project.
Yeah.
And we were able to shoot by basically like making it seem like it was for a school project. We were able to shoot at like CBS Radford on their subway set, like their subway car set,
and on the street set too.
Welcome to another episode of this week's Filmmaker's Corner presented by the Primal Group.
What's up, everyone? I'm Connor.
I'm Michael.
I am Peter.
And we have our guest today, Bryian
Hola.
Montgomery. Or should I say Bryian Keith Montgomery Jr.?
Hola, hola.
Or
Very
Beaumont. I call him Beaumont.
Beaumont.
Yeah. So one of our early guests, Bryian. I knew Bryian from film school.
Yes.
Cal State Northridge. What up?
CSUN.
CSUN. And we shot a feature film called Lori Sheedy FU in junior year. We were just talking about this.
We had a really big argument because so much time has escaped us that we were like, was it junior year or sophomore year?
Yeah.
And it's junior year.
It's junior year. So we shot a feature film before we even did our thesis film. And then since then we've worked together countless. Like I think I've shot everything you've made
shot everything
since, which is
since
an honor.
It's an honor, man.
It's an honor.
You get a certain shorthand with people, like we were just talking about earlier with your AD.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like I watched a video not too long ago, and it was us on behind the scenes. I don't know if it was Lori Sheedy or if it was on something. It was a behind the scenes thing, and I mumble a lot. You know, I mumble a whole lot. And I remember we were on set, and you walked up to me, talked about a shot, and I said something like, and you just looked at me and you went, okay. And you walked away. And I said to myself, I was like, I watched the video and I couldn't tell what I said. So I was like, what the fuck?
We just dialed in. That's how we kind of hit that rapport at a certain part in Parallax when we shot Parallax. But no, it is interesting how like when you just work with someone that closely and that intimately, you just learn their brain basically. Yeah. And you can like, you probably didn't have to say anything. You kind of just pointed to that, and I would have been like, okay, I know exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So tell us who you are. So you were born.
I am an LA filmmaker, meaning I was born here and I was raised here and I shoot here, which is a very rare thing. I feel like with a lot of people,
It's super rare.
It's very rare, and I have always said it's because people come from the Midwest, people come from all over the country to LA to come make it big, and they can't leave with their tails between their fucking legs.
Oh, absolutely.
So they have to like make it here versus LA people. If you live here and you fail, you're just like, you know what, forget about it. I'm going to go into marketing or something. So like, it's what you do. So like, it's interesting because usually I'm a prop master as well. And I'm a union in Local 44.
Flash that logo on your hat. There you
go. It's there. I'm a Local 44 prop master, and whenever I'm on set, like typically, like no one's from LA. Maybe the AD tops, but like no one. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like a unicorn. So that's something special about me.
It's always like a joke when someone's like in the film industry from LA, and it's like, you're not actually from LA. You're from Inland Empire. You're from Orange County. Yeah, like you're not from like Los Angeles County.
Yeah,
like people who are born here don't actually want to do film.
They don't. They're surrounded by it their whole lives. Mm-hmm. And it's also interesting. Like I often call people out on that all the time because like I'll meet somebody like, oh, I'm from LA. I go, what part? And they'll be like, oh, you know, like Van Nuys,
Pacoima. Like, oh no,
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Started off in college doing kind of like comedy stuff, and then eventually like maneuvered over to horror. And I couldn't exactly tell you why that happened. I think it was like one day we were sitting there. And I know we made that director's class. We took a director's class together in college, and I had to write something. And I remember just like writing a horror short for some reason. And after I did it, I was like, oh, I actually really like that. And then more and more over time, like my idea of horror became more like being more political in the films that I was making, and putting like some sort of like meaning in the movie. And I felt like horror is like the best like digestible way to do that. Like it always has been throughout time. A lot of people will argue.
Well,
Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say George A. Romero was literally like that was why he dove into horror. Was he literally felt like it was the only genre that was capable of like being able to like envelop all these like societal themes.
Yes.
Where you could tell a story that was beyond the picture.
Absolutely.
I feel like horror too is like you can almost, I mean, film in general, it's the best way to like see what the zeitgeist of the time was, because it's just embedded with like the culture of like the people making at the time. But even more so horror, because it's like if you look at what people were scared of, it was like a lot of the subtext of early zombie films is a lot of like communism, like the Red Scare, and you know what I mean. So
it revels in satire.
Yeah, and I remember like I took a monster theory class in college, and I remember that like one of the biggest things that I learned was like every Dracula is about something different in the time, and the Nosferatu was like about the fear, like the Jew. And that's why they
it's very anti-Semitic. The way they even designed him.
He looks like like a caricature of a Jewish person.
Yeah,
really just kind of
like a propaganda poster.
Exactly, dude. And so then, like Francis Ford Coppola was all about AIDS, and he actually was making an AIDS documentary at the same time as he was making the Dracula that he made. There's a lot of like blood work in that, and like even the opening is just like blood flowing all around. So everyone's afraid of at the time, AIDS epidemic,
and also just like our puritanical sexuality portrayal, like very misogynistic in like early horror and like the 70s and that whole kind of exploitation era and stuff. It's interesting,
and it's really funny because I find myself to be like a staunch liberal, but I have this undying love for like exploitation movies. And I grew up with my dad's like VHS tapes, which is funny. It's a line in like a short I wrote, but I remember getting my own VHS player in my room, and then going into like this cabinet of movies he had like double taped from all of the from all like the flicks he rented. I remember having like Commando and like Hollywood Shuffle and like all those early Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and stuff, and just having seen those things from a very young age of like how women are treated and everything else, and how those like tropes haven't left cinema. I feel like a lot of my job is to still make those movies, but kind of like turn them on their heads. It's always been kind of a dream of mine.
Yeah.
So why, I'm gonna cut in here.
Yeah.
Why film?
Why film?
Yeah. Like, what was it? What was the turning point in your life? Because I think I feel like that says a lot about like a director.
Yeah.
Especially if there was definitely like a poignant moment where that happened.
It was like every Saturday after like either I played basketball or after karate, my dad took me to the movies, and I remember like loving movies so much, and I would always like double tape and have my own VHS player. And like I think it was like the 8th grade, my buddy brought like a camera to school, like a little mini DV, which I feel like our generation's like Super 8, and like we started like shooting like just stupid stuff after school, and then all of a sudden I got like this iMac. And I had iMovie, which I feel like it was all of ours thing.
Cutting edge.
Revolutionary, man. Revolutionary.
The revolution. And so it ended up becoming like, this is what I want to do. And I got more and more excited with it. And I just shot a lot of things that like were reflected of like what I loved at the time. They're very Tarantino, like all the things
just
I would
overtly
shoot.
like your inspirations and stuff.
Oh my God. Like I remember what I used to do is I had this black bag. It was like this big, and inside of it were like fake guns, a fake brick of cocaine and like a security guard's jacket that could actually mimic a cop's jacket, and then just like a bunch of other like fake paraphernalia. And
what age was this?
This was oh my god! I was
high
in
school.
I was in the probably like the 8th or 9th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So a perfect
so
time
it's
to have
fine.
fake cocaine. And yeah,
exactly.
perfect
It was a
time.
powdered sugar packet, but it was like fake cocaine. And I remember in homeroom, I'd be like, okay, after school, I want to shoot this skit, and then by like second period, I had my friends on one like casting it, and then by the end of the day, we just went and shot it. Like, and that was like,
Damn.
like that was like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And then
You could have sold that like middle school, like. Dude, take that brick of powdered sugar and just sell them in little baggies. Like, I got what you need. I got what you need.
I got what you need, bro. It was, and they're like, and all this, the shorts are like shit, but they were just like so much fun. I just think about that. It's like, it's what made me happy, and so like I just kept doing it. And then in like college, it still made me happy. And till this day, it's like the happiest I am is when I'm making a movie.
So have you ever quit?
No.
Okay. I mean, that's
No.
because I mean, like, that's I think a really relevant thing. Like, a lot of filmmakers quit. Like,
Yeah.
like they all go through that
Mhm.
moment where like they're kind of like, screw this. I mean, I've been there. You know.
It's very true. I feel like I had one Indiegogo campaign that went so bad that I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna quit, but I need to rethink things.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
definitely took some serious reflection time.
Totally, but
Yeah.
never quit, and never actually like.
I mean, you never quit. You're still
yeah,
here.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here, man. Still
Grinding.
doing it. Still grinding.
So we've kind of touched on it, but like, can you give us a little bit of like a really brief overview of your sort of directing timeline from like, so we talked about like pre-college, and then just give us like a brief kind of timeline of your directing stuff, and then like lead us into like what you're doing today.
Totally, man. Yeah. So I was doing the cocaine epics in fucking middle school, and then in high school I started up this like after school program called Film School 101. And it was like all the kids would make a short film, and then we would like rent out a movie theater and we would show it after school. And so like I did like 3 movies there, and then got to college. And then when I got to college, I had my eyes set on the prize. I was like, okay, I'm going to make a feature in freshman year, and with no money and no idea about lighting, no idea about anything.
You're a true director.
I was like, true director,
Yeah,
that's fucking do it.
It's a feat of a true director.
This is how you do it.
Mhm.
And I went to make this movie called Jackie, and I was telling all the people that I was casting, I was like, yo, man, we're going to go ahead and make this movie that is going to get into Sundance, and we're going to do all this shit with it, and I'm going to make everyone's career. It's going to be great. And it was like the most like megalomaniac I'd ever been was when I got out of high school and went to freshman year of college, because I thought that I was going to change cinema freshman year of college. And then I was slapped in the face after like I made this movie and I watched it, and I was just like, okay, half it's out of focus.
Did you finish it?
Yes and no. I finished it, but then there was like a scene missing that, and then I just like I let that be like, okay, I'm never gonna release this. I have this for myself, and I'm really happy I made it. And there's like a moment in the beginning of the movie that like I'll always reference as being like the thesis of my life. And I'll just say what it is. For some reason, the movie starts off, and like this movie's like, I had like The Room status. It's kind of like, it's not the greatest movie. It has some good scenes, but it's like it's
If I let me jump in. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I met Bryian freshman year of college, or no, sophomore year, sorry. And I mean, I've seen it. It's a solid, like from a writing standpoint, it's pretty solid. It has technical issues, but like no, it's pretty solid. And then I met Bryian sophomore year, and then we were roommates, like just we got like grouped together in the dorms or whatever.
Mhm.
And then but film dorms, so we're all film related people. And I did pickup shots when he was trying to flesh out and finalize the film, and it is complete, it is done. But we did pickup shots, and that's when we started like kind of working together.
Yeah.
But
Was
go
it
ahead.
mini DV?
It was, but it also wasn't. So it was mini DV because we had this big old HD cam, but then we also were shooting on either a 7DD
I
or
think it was. Do we borrow Jeff's 7D?
maybe for a scene, but I think it was whatever We kept hopping off of
Mix
cameras.
it up.
Mixed
Yeah.
format
Yeah.
king over here.
Like, it's got some problems.
The pickups were definitely on DSLR, and that was my contribution, I guess.
And you can see it, and you can notice the shift in like the movie. You're just like,
Brian, can we watch this movie anywhere? Can we find this on Amazon Prime?
oh, never.
All right.
I'm never
Damn it.
released it.
It's
You
a
gotta auction
solid.
it off, dude.
It's a good like coming of age kind of like The Graduate inspired.
Yeah.
movie.
Was it comedy?
great
still?
score.
Yeah,
Or
it was comedy.
Okay, cool.
It was comedy. And it was the first time I ever worked with Daniel Treliza, who was my good friend and my lifelong music partner, because he does all the music for all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we after that was done, we put it to the side, and I was like, okay, I can't make another feature because like I didn't have what I needed there. We shot it for like $80. We're just shooting on weekends, and it took us like a year and a half to make the movie, even a little longer. And so then like that next year we were like, all right, let's make another feature. And so we made this movie called Lori Sheedy Fuck You,
Mm-hmm.
which is a poster for it up there.
Yeah, there is.
And it's a fun little movie that I rewatched the other day. And I always had this thing about looking back on my work and not loving it, but like I rewatched that recently and I was like, I gave myself too hard of a time with that fucking movie, because it's honestly, it's so entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think we just expected more from ourselves, but like it's a really fun movie.
Mhm.
Also comedy.
So how many features have you done? You've done more than one?
I've done 2 features, but what I'll say is that they were like, it was almost like doing like 2 senior theses is the way that we would put it.
It's boot camp, man.
As boot camp.
Mhm.
Lori Sheedy was a movie where we had 10 grand and all of us were in like our like right before our junior year,
Mhm.
where we like actually like we're in the program at CSUN.
But pre like thesis film era.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like pre-thesis film. And we went ahead and like we got this money. We had everybody who was in the department like working on the movie, and we went like 2 straight weeks, like without a day off.
Mhm.
And it was like
I've been there.
2 straight
Yeah,
weeks.
2
and
straight
then
weeks.
You know, it's a good shoot.
The way that we kind of framed it is it was instead of like I guess I would say with like indie features like that, there's almost like 2 ways to go, like where, and I've worked on stuff in both camps, but there's like let's just make it like really small and like the minimal locations, like 1 to 3 locations, and just really like dive into that. Or there's like the way we did it, which was like, let's just like run by the seat of our pants. I'm not saying it's better
oh
or
my
worse,
God,
but we had like dozens of locations. In 2
so many
weeks.
locations.
So
Mhm.
production value wise, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But then we were just like sprinting through shots and setups and everything, and like doing like, you know, some days we'd have 3 to 4 company moves a day.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Oh,
it
it
was
was bad,
brutal.
dude. And we were all producing it, and it was like it was like this thing where I remember we needed some locations, and we were like 3 weeks out, and I remember just like walking out of the house and saying, "I'm gonna go get some locations for this movie." And we like, I walked
Casually
just
right over
casually.
there.
Mhm.
I just walked down Chatsworth, and I remember talking to like 3 different store owners and just being like, "Hey, man, we're college student. We're looking for some locations to shoot at. We're shooting a movie. It'll be small. Like, are you up for it?" And there was like one guy out of all of them who was just like, "Yeah, you know what? You can shoot here. We'll take
Mhm.
the advertising." Like,
Well, it's not Wisconsin. I mean, this is
not-
LA.
it's
LA.
Like,
I mean,
you know, like who the hell are you?
yeah,
the feature had like 6 months of pre-production just because it was just like a numbers game. It was like just knocking on doors and being like, can we
Damn.
shoot here for free? And
Can
we
we shoot
even
here?
we even finessed using our school and the kind of like
Oh my
saying
God.
saying it was for it was like we worded it as like it wasn't a college film student project, but like we were film students doing a project.
yeah.
And we were able to shoot by basically like making it seem like it was for a school project. We were able to shoot at like CBS Radford on their subway set, like their
Damn.
subway car set,
And on the street set too.
So
and
this
on
is
their New York street.
this is
back
your
lot.
second feature.
The Lori Sheedy.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
second
the
feature.
second one.
Yeah, and this is like what we did together, and then our friend Zach.
Yeah.
And
'Cause Zach also directed it as well. So it's like Zach and I both directed the film.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
and co-wrote it
it
too.
exists, and yeah, again, the poster is up. There's actually 3 Bryian posters there. There's we're gonna get to those, but there's chickens,
There's
the blue
chickens.
one. There's a good guy with a gun, the red one, and then above it you can kind of see Lori Sheedy up there.
It's the Japanese poster. behind
with
it.
the mini
Brian,
posters in it.
can the audience see this movie anywhere?
No.
Oh
Right now,
my
it's
God.
no- It's
We need-
nowhere.
I have it on
so
DVD.
have
We
it on
need to
DVD.
we
Come
need
to
to
Connor's
fast
house.
forward here.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
You know,
Okay,
the audience needs to, you know, they
need
want
something.
they want to see something.
something they can
like,
chew on.
Yeah, like
Let me
two features we can never see in the abyss is nothing to me.
I
you
know. I know.
So then we did that,
It's
and
mystical. I like it.
we did the feature, and then through school I shot a thesis film, but then so with like Brian, he did a couple horror shorts, like he was saying,
Mhm.
and I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but
Those are available if you want to watch those. There's a
the
place.
it was Postman Don't Deliver on Christmas,
And then Kenny's Coming Home for Christmas,
which is like a two-parter basically.
It's like a two-parter. And they're different characters, but it was like when I was in college, I was thinking like, let's do this thing where we don't have that much money. Why don't we take a one location and create like the same story 3 different times? So the first time it was like, we're going to take this girl and we're going to make her be terrorized by something like outside the house. And we're going to keep her there, and it's going to take place during Christmas. And so that was Postal and Deliver on Christmas. And then the second one we did was Kenny's Coming Home for Christmas. I was like, let's take the same actress and put her in like the same wardrobe, and we'll just do a different story. And that one's about her brother coming home, and actually like at midnight he turns into like a werewolf. And so like we took the same idea and we did it again. And it was supposed to do a third one, which I'm actually like writing into a feature instead, which is called The Last Day of Christmas. And that one's about like a house full of like sex offenders who like all get put into this this sort of like game of who is the worst one in the room, and they all have to kill each other. It's like a whole ordeal. But those 2 shorts like actually taught me a lot about horror, and that's like they're the reason why I got into it. And then later on,
Yeah, that's a good segue to like, so what you're saying about the feature version about the sex offender. So the next thing that we did was that's when you talk about alt horror and rideshare, and how you started shifting the horror to like socially conscious,
So
I guess.
At what
subject matter.
point, and let's give some context. At what point in our life are we here?
right now we are like right after college. Like college had ended.
Okay.
Like Kenny's Coming for Christmas, I think was like the last thing I did in college. And so
It's
after
like 2014.
like 2014. And so like after that, I had fucking put on a bunch of weight, dude. I couldn't pay for my rent. Shit was really bad. And we had to move out of this house that we lived in. That was like everything. Like this house was like
it's like our studio.
It's like our studio. And we loved that house. And we moved back with my parents. And I was like, I need to make something. And so I started to make a feature, another feature, but then it failed. And that was the Indiegogo that I was talking about earlier.
I love the casual, like, let's just go shoot a feature.
And this was shoot a feature, and it failed.
It's so LA. It's so LA of you.
It's extremely LA. And then I was like, okay, I need to rethink this. Because after that failed, and I had 2 other features that didn't work necessarily, I was like, how are we gonna do this? And I kept like grazing over it. And then eventually, like, this is the year 2016. I was like, okay, there's so much going on right now. I'm getting very political. I'm wanting to have my voice and my expression and everything else. And I decided like, okay, I want my work to like reflect that. And so that's when I created like alternative horror. And alternative horror was a branding that took current events and made them into horror stories. And originally we were supposed to be comics and short films. I made one comic, and it kind of like it offended a lot of people. And the idea was to make something that was exploitation, that was like talking about something, but like a lot of people just like, I think 2 people read the comic. It was about Brock Turner and about like the aftermath of it, and a fictional case. And it was all about like why systemically rapists are like not treated the way they're supposed to be treated, and like how like the whole judicial system is fucked up. And so many people saw it, and it got like the boot thrown at it. I learned a little bit, and then finally I made a short film called Rideshare, which was actually successful. And that one was about a predator in Uber who like takes a girl and he picks her up and he kills her. Sorry.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
It was based on a true story, right?
It was based
loosely.
It was loosely based off a story that had happened like 4 months before we shot it, where this guy had gone around and he actually like killed like 2 girls. And
Do you know where?
This was 2016. I don't even remember. It was in America, but I don't remember where in America it was. But we did that one, and then after that, like I got a little speed, started to work as a prop master, started to make a little bit of money, which was very important because it's so hard to be a filmmaker in Los Angeles and not have money.
Because being a director means being poor until you're like directing studio movies, basically, or
Exactly.
commercials.
Unless you were born with a fucking silver spoon in your mouth, which is like why filmmaking is not a poor man's game, but you just have to make it your game no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, with I got the rideshare, I started doing prop master work. I saved $4,000, and I was like, all right, let's shoot this movie that's like really strong in my body, and that was Chickens. And so that was the first thing that actually like I would consider it was the first thing that was like a really big success that I had done. And that's available online.
Do we want to show a clip of Chickens?
Yeah, you want to show a trailer?
Absolutely, we can show a trailer.
And this was again, I shot this for Bryian also, and
Yes.
this is like really like the first I would say the first like kind of more big budget short that you had,
Yeah.
like where it had real resources and money behind it, and
Yeah.
so
So-
the proper production,
No mini DV
path.
or anything.
No mini DV.
So while
no using school favors and stuff, you know.
So
Precisely.
while Connor cues that up, I'd love to just backtrack just for a second here, just while we're on this train of thought. You know, you basically had like the conversion process of where you were like, oh, film's cool, film's like this novelty,
Yeah.
and you kind of like flipped it into this artist game,
Mhm.
and like I experienced that myself as a director. So
Right.
I would love to like unpack like what changed, like where did you go from like film's a cool novelty
Mhm.
like job to like I want to be an artist, I want to you know, share my work in galleries, you know, so to speak.
It's really interesting you say that because I felt like I had watched all these movies that people considered great, and then I started to go into a bunch of underrated movies, and I think I started to gravitate a lot toward movies that were really saying something. And so I was like, I want to be like these guys. And while everybody starts off as like your Tarantinos or you're like, or
Spielberg,
like
or
your,
whatever,
your
yeah.
Spielbergs. Eventually, I started to love Paul Schrader. I started to love Brian De Palma, and with like
venture off the beaten path a little bit.
you
You
venture
know?
off a little bit,
Mhm.
and like Schrader, I really love because he was making movies about like the fucking common man, and I really started to like the idea of making movies that like meant something because I started off as a very pulpy director, and I still am, but I was like, what if this pulp? What if all this shit I'm talking about actually means something?
Mhm.
What if it actually means something?
Yeah, like grounding it.
It's
And I've
grounded.
noticed that in your work too.
Yeah.
Like you know, you have it was like if we're gonna go off the horror shorts,
Mm.
the Postman's kind of two-parter.
Mm.
It was like definitely very pulpy.
Yeah.
And then once you like with Rideshare and on, it started like you kept your style, but you found your voice in the sense of like by grounding it like politically or socially, but still making it kind of slightly heightened.
Yeah.
It feels very like it feels more relatable and like yeah, it just feels like it's a good balance of like it's not total pulp and total style. It's like a little more grounded and a little more like has a little more weight to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think like that was the moment. It was wanting to. There were a couple of films, movie Blue Collar, and Hardcore, which are two movies by Paul Schrader.
Mhm.
But Blue Collar is one of my favorite films of all time, and it shook me a little bit when I watched it. And I don't know if you've seen it. Have anybody seen Blue Collar in this room? Blue Collar is about the labor unions working for working on cars in Detroit during like the 1970s. Stars Harvey Keitel, Richard Pryor, and this movie is in so many ways like a genre film, like a heist thing, but it's also just talking so much about like the racism and the like all the problems that were happening on the line that contributed to why these guys could never get ahead in life. And that just like resonated with me so much, and the acting and the performance is so powerful, and I was just like, fuck, dude, like how do I do that?
So I want to drill into that
Yeah.
just because we're on it.
Yeah.
So what you're describing is you had a very emotional experience
Yeah.
with the film.
Yeah.
And so it was probably, I'm guessing, probably the first time you had that emotional experience with a film or like the medium in that way.
I would say the median. I've had like I watch so many movies, it's really hard for a movie to get to me, and like very few do. And that one was one that really like got to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and because I resonate with that as well, is like
Yeah.
there was definitely a moment in my own career where it very much flipped from this novelty of like, I'm going to go to Los Angeles, California, being from Wisconsin, and like, I'm going to go be this filmmaker. And it was like this cool novelty to like, just kind of forget all that. Like, I'm an artist,
Yeah.
and I have something to say,
Right.
and kind of that angle on it. And it's like, it's interesting to talk to, another director who's had that same experience, because it's very much gravitated around the same thing, is this very strong emotional experience with the medium and basically being touched by it.
Absolutely.
And trying to replicate that then in your own career.
Yeah. And what's interesting as well is that you find yourself hating a lot of like Oscar bait, where you watch a lot of movies, you're just like, damn, dude, like this is really trying. And so how do you find that middle ground of like a movie that's entertaining, it's also like saying something? And so that's why I feel like as filmmakers really gravitate toward like the Kubricks of this world.
Yep.
And like the people who meet the high and lows.
The Fincher, they're able to just ground just real life and fiction, just seamless entertainment,
right? Like the Coens and all these people. That's why we love them. And it's like movies that resonate with you after you leave, and when a gunshot actually means something as well, like
not overdoing it. It was just like there's a Tarantino method, which is like has its value, but it's like just constantly gunfire or something like that. But it's like when you have like 3 gunshots and you really make the weight of those gunshots, like it feels more powerful. And that's what you did with Chickens. I feel like each gunshot. Do we want to play that?
Let's circle back around. So we're gonna circle back around to Bryan's short film Chickens. Do you want to just give the audience just a brief, just once over of it?
Sure. Chickens. It is a film about these 2 cops who do this heinous thing, and afterwards they try to cover it up, and we see the aftermath of that. And here is the trailer for the film.
Here we go. Chickens.
"13-second trailer.
Little teaser.
All you need to know.
I hate long trailers for short films.
Bryan, I don't even know what that was about. Damn it! I know it's a short film, but damn it!
You'll have to watch it. It's online.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch
He's
it.
drawing it.
Where can we see it?
You can find that short on althorror.com. That's ALTHORROR.com. Or you can type in alternativehorror.com too, because I bought that as well.
Is it free?
It's free. Absolutely free.
No subscription?
No subscription necessary. Just go and watch the damn thing.
Since you're boasting it, what is alt horror? Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that for a second.
Alternative horror is branding of taking current events and swapping them and making them horror stories, horror short films to be exact. And it kind of just came out in 2016 being the way it was, and it has slowly moved from like, it's not necessarily horror because it has the genre tropes of horror, but there's no fantastical element, which is typically what you would consider like horror to be.
It's more satire.
It's more satire, but at the same time, it isn't that far away from reality. And which is funny. What's funny about that is that Chickens, we shot in 2017, went around the festival circuit. I remember when I first put the movie out, a lot of people who saw it, they went, those cops are unrealistic. There's no way. There's no way those cops are like that. And I said, okay. And it still did really well amongst Black people. And like,
surprise.
Surprise. And it was really crazy that like I released the film online about a month ago, and it resonated, and I didn't hear that comment at all. Like after, because
the unrealisticness of
the
it,
unrealisticness
or whatever.
of it. And like my girlfriend, who also saw the film when like we first started dating, she was just like, "Are cops really like that? I don't think so."
It felt a little
so
more heightened
unrelatable.
than, and then I don't know if we meant it's about police brutality.
It's about police
We
brutality.
mentioned that.
In case anybody, I didn't say those words specifically, but yes,
Yeah.
it's about police brutality.
Horror film about police brutality.
Horror film about police brutality.
With people of color.
It's the slug line of the movie. And she, I think after watching it like twice and then like paying more attention to the media, she was like, Yeah, no, that movie isn't. That movie really isn't. It's just
Not
it's
far at
real.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy because in to like today's climate, like the the protests happened right after George Floyd was killed, and then afterwards, I was like, okay, like now's the time to release it because the film has been in festival circuit for over 2 years.
And we're still talking chickens,
We're
right?
still talking chickens, and so it played like in every genre festival, like around the world. Like
In existence.
it played everywhere, dude. And so it was like now's the time to release it online. And I had a deal with like this company, and they were supposed to release it like right after, and then they were like, we think this might be a little too strong to release like at this moment. So like I had to go and release it on my own, and it was like the reception I got from it was like really good, and I put it on like Reddit, and like it got like to the front page of fucking Reddit, dude. It did pretty well, and I felt like people like really like resonated with it now, and so like it's a good piece, and it's a movie that will always be relevant until we do something about the police. So
It was kind of cool that like it again, like we shot it so long ago. I'd been doing the festival circuit, and I feel like it was interesting because like the timing of it felt like it kind of the festival had it made its rounds.
yeah,
It was sort of like, okay, now what do we do with it?
mm-hmm.
And right around the time when all this started happening with the protests,
Yeah,
and it was probably like the best thing. Like it just felt like the perfect
it
timing
was
to
perfect
release
timing.
it, even though it had been done for 3 years. You know,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's context within saying like the perfect time because it's like
Yeah.
it's almost like
Terrible thing,
right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like the
Mhm.
satire would make the most impactful punch
Mhm.
from the artist who was trying to like project a message.
I wish
Yeah.
it wasn't such good timing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, right. Exactly. I mean, and I think that's the
It's
point.
like-
that
I
I'm
wish
trying to
the
make.
movie was completely false. I wish
Right,
the movie
that it was truly satire.
Yes.
In every
This is
component.
in
unrealistic.
every capacity. It's crazy as well because the movie plays internationally a lot, and it did really well in Brazil. And it's because like they got the same shit going on there, man.
Mhm.
Same shit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's like I noticed a place that does really well. It's like a lot of corruption in a lot of places.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
any country that flags top 5, you're like, don't go visit there.
Don't go visit that place. Don't go
Mhm.
there. Like
It's all social unrest.
we won like 2 festivals in Brazil. I was like, oh damn, they're hurting,
They
man.
really like
They
it.
really
over
like the
there.
movie.
Okay, so
Like it too much.
chickens. With chickens is done.
Chickens is done.
What's next?
After Chickens, we went ahead and I was like, I'm gonna do another short film before like I jump into another feature film, because I felt like in this day and age, it is really good to make a feature and take it to a film festival, but you gotta have a lot of money, and you gotta have something that's good, and like you're more likely to get into a festival, but like you have a lot more chances, which I know sounds weird, 'cause you have a lot more chances with a short film to do something and get people to actually watch your work. And I mean, going the film festival route, and like I probably went to like 10 of the festivals. What I can tell you is like only the big ones really help you as a filmmaker and like get you somewhere. And like I just got like a manager off of like from Chickens, even though it's been like 3 years. Like I just finally got like representation, and it takes
Awesome.
like thanks man. It takes like
Congratulations, yeah.
really like they're the really big ones to do something, or someone at the smaller ones seeing your work and then telling a bigger festival, hey, you should play this.
Like referring it, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I decided to make another short film, which was Good Guy with a Gun, and it was based off like the first 4 ideas we had for like all the shorts, and this one was about like an incel, and it took forever to figure out like what the story was actually about. And then I remember I went to go see Vox Lux. You guys seen that movie?
No.
It's really good.
Mhm.
And this was during a year like where all these like fucking mass shootings were happening, and then one happened that wasn't too far from us. And I used to always think like, oh, that'll never happen in Los Angeles because that only happens in like middle America.
Was that the San Bernardino one?
It was the one in Ventura at that cowboy bar. We went to that bar after, I think it was Kelsey's wedding as well. I've been there after a wedding,
Mhm.
and I remember thinking like, oh my god, like I could have easily been in that place.
Mhm.
And so this idea of like the fear of fear just started to like run in my body. And then Vox Lux came out. And I remember like the feeling it had over the entire audience. It's about like the aftermath of a mass shooting. And I had this feeling for like the rest of the year where I kept sitting inside of like places thinking that someone was going to come in and shoot up the place. And a lot of that is kind of like left since the coronavirus because people aren't like going out as much. So I don't fear it as much lately.
Just replace one fear with the other fear, right?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. But I remember sitting in a bar just being like, someone could just come in here and shoot up the place right now.
Yeah.
And that started to like run me crazy. And so I felt like that's what the movie's about. Because in thinking about someone shooting you with a big gun, it makes you want to go and buy a big gun and only like to protect yourself. And so I wanted to make a movie about like the worst type of person who could have the best intentions getting a gun and what that could be like. And so like that movie is far more of a satire than The Chickens is and Good Guy with a Gun. And it's about this kid who goes ahead and does this awful thing and gets punished for it and then decides, no, I need to go ahead and buy a gun to protect myself from all of the people out there who feel like they could take advantage of me. It's not available yet, but it will be in September. And
we'll wait to release.
Where are we gonna see that?
That's gonna be on Alter. Alter is is a horror company. They're releasing it on all their platforms. It will be free because Alter has a YouTube page and they also have like their own page, but it'll be free, which is great, and everybody will be able to enjoy it.
It's a really solid. I mean, like Bryan was saying, it touches on, incel culture and like toxic masculinity and like. Just it raises questions about the gun control issues and
it's definitely shocking.
Yeah, Peter. So noteworthy to say, Peter was my gaffer, and this was like we shot this. When did we shoot? This was right after we shot Parallax.
August.
I think it was August, early August.
So we shot Parallax in like July.
Yeah.
So
that's actually how me and Bryan know each other.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
It was in August of last year, and. It's gonna play. It has its film festival premiere at Sidewalk in like a month, so it's gonna play at Sidewalk in Alabama, and then after that, it plays in Germany. It's gonna play at Hardline, but that's the only two right now. The film festival market has been kind of a sham this year. If anybody knows that,
I can't imagine.
COVID.
Otherwise,
it's been somewhat of a sham. The only ones we're going to is like Sidewalk because they were drive-in this year, and they have like 4 screens. Which is really cool, and they're like running it for a whole week.
And that's where Chickens played too, right?
Chickens played there last year, and that was what we were. I was at that festival in the middle of the shooting of Good Guy with a Gun. Because I went there and came back, and so that was last year, and this year we're playing there again.
Do you want to talk about the screening we had for Good Guy during the COVID times?
Totally.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I wanted to play in a theater at least once. Because now we're going the streaming route with the film. And so we went ahead and like Fairfax Cinema for like this brief little moment of time. I was like, hey, you could rent out our theater space. This is before like Garcetti like shut everything down again. And so went ahead and like called them up. I was like, hey, can we do a screening there? And I want to do a screening of that movie alongside a movie that like really inspires me as well, which is also another movie that made me want to like put feelings into my films. So I played Good Guy with a Gun alongside Kaveh Sahidi's movie I Am a Sex Addict. And so like they're 2 very different films, but one's about a narcissist and then the other one you could say he's a narcissist, but he's like the director stars in it, so I won't call him a narcissist to his face, but he's very open about his feelings and he loves to make films about his home life and everything else. So we did that at the festival. I mean, at the Fairfax Cinema, and it was really cool. It was like the new theater going experience, because I only got 35 seats of like the 200 seats.
Yeah, it was like partial
Yeah.
capacity, and
Very
Peter was there
partial.
too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
separated
Yeah.
every like 2 seats.
That's called a hollow applause.
I
right
know,
there.
right?
35 people in a 200-person theater.
It was like the safest we could keep it because they said we could do up to 40, but when he said the number 40, it was like he was holding his neck. He was like, oh,
he was like,
a little
I
nervous.
hope they don't ask me to do 40.
You could do 40, and then so I said, all right, keep it 35, and I think people were actually very afraid to go into the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Did you fill it out? 35 people?
I think it was 33, so
Okay.
I had 35 seats, but I think it was like 33. But
And nobody got COVID, right?
nobody got COVID.
Yeah, see?
That we know.
You're
It was
fine.
it was a month ago, so I think we would know by now.
Yeah.
We would know by now. Everyone wore their mask. I think
It was really safe. We
Yeah,
did
they were
it.
taking
the
temperature
safest-
at the door. It
Yeah.
was like
it was
Yeah.
pretty
as
damn
good as
safe.
it could get.
It was as
Mhm.
good as it was as good as it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great screening, and we got to play. And next screening is in a drive-in,
Mhm.
which is gonna be pretty fucking cool.
Amazing.
So when is that?
That's gonna be August. They haven't given my exact date, but the sidewalk runs from August 24th to the 30th. It's gonna be a good time. I'm gonna go.
I mean, so we
might
likely
go
will
too.
air this before this is available on Alter, but we'll update the links in the
There it is.
description,
Yeah.
so that when people revisit this, they can see.
Do we want to play a trailer for Good Guy?
Sure.
Just keep that ball rolling with
The ball is
the
there.
teasers.
How long is this one? 14 seconds?
It's actually if that one was 13, this one is 14. Actually,
Oh,
You
really?
might
Dang.
be-
Oh
I like
my
it.
You
Thematic.
might-
I like it.
you
Keep
might
it
be-
consistent.
Remind us
Correct.
never to have Bryian on to do a bid show again. Tired of these 14-second clips,
And I despise trailers to begin with, so
Mhm.
like they ruin all movies. So when I get to have like a really short little snippet where you don't know anything about the film, it's pretty good. I like it.
So basically,
back it.
maybe we should have like 30-second studio theatrical trailers, so they stop ruining the movie for everybody.
Absolutely.
That's the rule. You watch the teaser and then you don't watch trailer 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's what I
So
do
otherwise it's
personally.
ruined.
I
Yeah.
rarely see trailers.
I like to when I go to the theater, I like to kind of zone out during the trailer, so I don't actually retain anything
Mhm.
because you'll see the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It
Yeah.
sucks.
It's gotten bad like
You,
that.
you
It's
see
not real
someone
bad.
dying in a trailer and then they're in the beginning. You're like, I don't care about this person. I know
Yeah,
they're going to die.
they're gonna die.
What's the point?
It really kind of sucks. I like to
Yeah.
actually sometimes like, especially with like indie movies. Like I remember when I saw Moonlight, they were like, "Oh yeah, Moonlight was won this festival, this and that. It's coming out like tomorrow." I was like, "I'm gonna go see that. I'm not gonna watch the trailer."
Mhm.
And I felt so good because I had no idea what that movie was about. I didn't know it was about like I didn't know it was a gay coming of age story either.
Mhm.
And I just saw it and I was like really kind of blown away by it. Same thing with Good Time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you go into a movie knowing nothing and then it was amazing, it's the best.
The best.
It's the best way.
And I like to do that with like the Oscar ones that come around.
Yeah.
Just don't even watch the trailer.
Yeah.
Or turn it off 10 seconds in.
And now we're gonna play a trailer for Bryan's A Good Guy with a Gun.
Short and sweet.
is.
Short and sweet and to the point. It's not a movie for everyone, which is like the thing I put on alt horror. It's like alt horror is not for
Yeah.
everybody. It's definitely a movie where like I feel like you'll enjoy if you watch it, but it's like it's kind of tense. It's kind of a tense movie.
I remember before it had even started shooting, Connor was talking about it. He was like, yeah, it's this incel script. And it's like, I couldn't believe Bryan's the guy that wrote this. Like reading it through it. And then I had not met you yet. And I read the script. I'm like, geez, this is intense. And then I come to set and meet you. I'm like, this is not the same guy who wrote this movie. There's no way. Like, absolutely no way.
And it's so funny because after he watched it, he was just like, man, it made more sense on the screen than I saw it on paper. I was like, it's all good, dude.
And it did.
Yeah.
That was a concern I had. Was I was like, okay, I love the idea of this and I want to shoot this, and I was asking you how, and it's a fair point because it's like, how do you thread the needle of making it known to the audience that the perspective of the filmmaker is not on board with the perspective of the protagonist, and like kind of threading that needle because we're all conditioned as audience members to automatically like root for the protagonist.
Yeah, how do you not glorify him?
Yeah,
but still keep him the main
side
interest?
side with the camera kind
But
of thing.
to your point, I mean, you did a great job with it, and it was like a very hard task, I'm sure. So tell us about that.
It was hard, and you have to like when it's something that goes beyond like filmmaking. Oh no, sorry, it has to do completely with like technical filmmaking. You have to make your movie if it's a satire and it's about like a person you're not supposed to like but you're supposed to follow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of just show his world as what it is. And so there was this like, I'll go ahead and say something that happens in the film. In the movie, our lead character, he rapes a girl, and it happens in the beginning, and a lot of people watch the film, and they go, "Oh, I didn't think he did it." It's like 10% of the audience will say that, and I go, "Why not?" And they go, "Oh, because it was a protagonist," and I didn't. He told us he didn't, so I assumed he didn't. But like that was like the point. And I remember with Daniel, we were like scoring the movie, and he had this love theme that was going on during like all of the aftermath of the rape. And I was like, I feel like this is in the right direction, but I feel like it's a lot because it's not exactly what I had in mind. Let me just keep watching it. And he said, no, you have to understand, Bryan. And he's like, he comes to me with this, and he says, like, we're in Alric's world. And in Alric's world, he sees this as like this grandiose, like love theme. And he had retempt my movie, like from what I originally had to the Princess Leia theme from Star Wars. And I was just like, damn, I don't know, man. And I remember I kept watching it, and then eventually by the time he finished it, I went, yeah, no, that makes sense. Right. And the whole movie, the motif that's used there is used differently throughout the whole film. And there's just like point early on in the film when he's talking about the guy he always wants to be. And there's this like theme in the movie where it's like it keeps changing depending on like where we're in. And so in that point of the movie, it's just like this old 80s sort of like porno action theme. Boom, 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 boom. It's like the motif keeps changing over the film. And it's just one of those ways where you have to show this bizarre world that this guy is living in for what it is. And you as the audience, you'll feel so uncomfortable with like what you're seeing on the screen because it doesn't make sense to what you're typically used to, that you start to say, oh yeah, no, this guy, I don't like this guy.
Well, it's I mean, that's like the reason that people like love hate like Requiem for a Dream is it's such like an emotionally intense experience where like the director just literally drags you through the mud and shows you like the life of these characters and like is basically like fillets his audience like alive, emotionally because he shows you like, oh, you want to see what it's like to get addicted to heroin and fall like into a spiral? Like, oh, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And you'll see it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those movies where like, you watch it and you feel almost gross or dirty because I feel like that's a good feeling. Because people should see a movie and like it's exciting and fun and happy, and you watch it and you're like, oh, but it's enjoyable too.
Enjoyable.
Like, it's a weird experience for sure. I remember like most sets that you work on, I'm like, I don't give a shit what's going on over there. I'm just working kind of thing. Yeah. And I remember on that one moments very specifically of like, I need to be right by monitor. I got to like film this because this is ridiculous. Like, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. Man. Because I had moved to LA like a couple months before then. And I remember people like, what's the favorite thing you've worked on? What commercial or this or that? And I'm like, it's this short film. Like, it was insane. Like, I can't describe the experience.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I love that. And I just like it's great to have people on set who actually like give a shit about the movie too, and like actually want to see it through. It's pretty good. It's nice.
Yeah,
I just think it's funny. I just watched that and it's like it's so like stereotypical American culture. Like like it doesn't. I didn't even know if was there any dialogue in that, like
in the trailer.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, and it doesn't need to be, and it's America.
Yeah.
Like
both of those shorts are so like, okay,
Very
what is America
American.
known for? Police brutality against people of color and
mass shoutings.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels and it feels so like on topic.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get around that.
It's very Good Guy with a Gun is. My girlfriend says this all the time. She says it's the most American movie she's ever seen. because it's got everything. It's just like an exercise in toxic masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like I feel in fear. I'm gonna buy a gun, but like the way in which he gets there, a lot of the time as the audience, you're just like, okay, I guess that is a reason to buy a gun, and things happen in the film that I don't want to spoil, but like it's just like everything wrong with America, like in like kind of like one movie, and you could like break it apart and like find out other things. I'm saying, I'm like, on the surface, it's like it's definitely a very American movie.
Yeah.
For this movie, for a good guy, I feel like we really we maximized. You have to shoot in a weekend if you're doing a short film in LA. You just have to shoot in a weekend so you can get all 3 days for one day rental. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And locations are so goddamn expensive, you know, that you gotta get those 1 day rentals.
You gotta get the 1 day rentals. And the thing is on a Friday, you just take that as a half day because once everybody gets something, maybe you shoot something real small on that Friday, but then you shoot Saturday and Sunday nonstop. And then the best way to do it is to shoot on like a Labor Day weekend, like a Memorial Day weekend, which is what we did for both of the shorts. Because for Chickens, we shot on Memorial Day weekend, and then for Good Guy with the Gun, we shot that over 2 weekends, but the second weekend was like Labor Day weekend.
So you're getting 4 days for one.
We got 4 days for one.
So exploit the hell out of your labor. Make them work a holiday.
And give them barbecue on the last day.
Yeah, but don't worry.
That's all it takes.
Don't worry, production gets cheap gear.
Cheap gear.
No, I'm just kidding. I've done that. So
I mean,
you know, everyone who's produced something has done that at some point.
Absolutely.
You got to. Well, I think that kind of comes with like the artistry of it, you know, it's like when you really start looking at your skill and you unequivocally like view your own skill as an art, as like a, you know, and not a trade even, so to speak, but like, you know, more than that, like a quality, you know, I think that when you can reflect that in a work and focus it and people can see that manifest, you know, like there's a loyalty that gets instilled in your crew and the people that follow you and support you. And, you know, because it's always nice to be the one that's like, hey, you know, that guy, like, I was like helping him out when he was, you know, doing short films.
Yeah.
You know, like, and look at him now, he's like in theaters or, you know, whatever the case is, you know, it's like there is that level of like people love working with successful people. And if you can project that, you know, and encapsulate that and like, you know, but also be compassionate to your crew and be like empathetic. Cause I mean, you know, there's obviously like being a nutty director all the time is not a great situation to be in for, you know, your crew.
Yeah.
Being a storyteller or a visionary who's like, I have something to say. It's this, and it's very much this, and it's unequivocally this, you know, because that sounds so redundant, but you know, I can't tell you how many directors I've produced for, line produced for, production managed for, who like you love to think that the person you're working for knows what they want, but then they don't know what they want. And, you know, it's almost like gets into this point where as a crew member, as somebody in the trenches, like you want your leader, you want the guy or gal or, you know, whatnot, who's steering the ship to know where the hell this ship is going. Like we're not just floating to sea and just biding our time, you know?
Absolutely, dude. One thing that I've always said is like, I feel like if you're going to be a director or you're going to be above the line in general, but like specifically a director, you have got to work at least like 2 different jobs below the line for a decent amount of time. I feel like you got to, because like being a prop master, and I was a script supervisor before I was a prop master, doing those 2 jobs taught me how to like improvise and work with people. And there's nothing worse than having a director, and I've worked with like some shit directors, like say something to me where I'm just like, first of all, homie, you're like 5'1", and then like second of all, homie, you have no idea what you're asking and like how much work it takes to put into it, and you're asking me to make something that's impossible. So one of the most important things for like a director to know is that like you have something written on paper, you have something you want to do, like an idea. One of the best advice that like Terry Gilliam gave like Quentin Tarantino was that like the idea of being a director is being able to tell someone what you want in such detail that you leave them to do whatever they're going to do, and what they come back with is like, that's what you got.
It's a direct result of how you communicated that idea.
Yeah, it's communication.
I feel like I've also worked on so many things where like a commercial or music video or something where you're tasked to go do something because the director wants it, and you don't put in that full effort or that extra little bit because you're like, fuck this guy. This guy's an asshole. I don't care. Like, we're going to do it how we want to do it.
Yeah.
But when you've worked in those lower jobs, you know how to communicate and you know what it's like. So you're not just like, fucking get that done as a director. It's a way better relationship.
Yeah. It's like the director who acknowledges that like there is no way that their movie would have been made without that PA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. Like people with money and authority forget that so quickly that it's like, you know, that the guy or gal that you just day play hired, 2 days ago and put out a job and literally put no effort into filling the position. Like, yeah, like whether or not you like it or not, like the efficacy of that employee will directly reflect on the final product of the film. Mm-hmm. So just in case you forget how important the guy that you think you're just hiring to get your coffee is, like they might take too long, to get in that coffee, and then all of a sudden that delays your actors 45 minutes, and guess what? The director just lost a shot because your PA took too long to get coffee. And again, you don't see that roll up unless, you're working behind the lines and you see where you're losing time, where you're losing money, where you're losing labor,
I feel like it also shows in that final product too, because when people like who they're working for, they want to contribute that little extra bit. Absolutely. Instead of just like, fuck this, I'm doing this. It's not going to look as good. Director might not know it because they're not attached all the way to that spot, but it definitely shows.
Totally.
And then going off like what you're saying, Brian, like working other positions to become a filmmaker, like, I mean, I experienced as a DP because I work in the union as like in the camera department, and I work on like big stuff, like big TV shows and movies and stuff. And then I work on like super small stuff, like just like passion projects for friends, and then like kind of everything in between. And when I'm like shooting a film, I'm so glad now that I have the knowledge of like not only how the big budgets do it, how the big dogs do it, but like how to do it on a zero or shoestring budget, and to kind of I know how to sort of, okay, I've shot stuff for no money before, but now that I have the knowledge of like shooting stuff on like a big scale and just like how it functions and like the things they do right, and also the things they do wrong, and how to like streamline stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's really helpful for me, and I think you guys were saying like for you guys as directors too. I mean, it's just so important.
It's working below the line, and then another thing is also like editing. To have edited a movie or edited your own film or edited someone else's film, you really learn like what you actually need leaving a set. Because more times than not,
over covering stuff.
I hate over covering stuff, and I never like. It's one of the things that I do. Like I know how like little time we have on a set. I rarely shoot wides, man.
Really?
I rarely shoot wides, dude. I'll get like, for example, like in Chickens, like the movie is it's in 3 different kind of parts. Like the beginning happens, and then we go to a different room in that one location, and we come back to like the same location. At the very beginning is the only establishing shot we have when everything first starts, and I didn't even go into like any dialogue past like the first like 3 sentences. And I was like, all right, we got our establishing shot. We don't have time for another one, because you have to think about how long it takes to set up a wide. You just don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
And so more times than not, like I find it to be not useful, especially if you are in like 45 minutes into the movie. Like if you're shooting a feature, or like you're way later in, it's so unlikely you're going to cut to that wide.
Yeah.
That like there's no point.
Right. I mean, if you've done your job, you should have the audience involved in the scene. And unless you're cutting to a wide to make a point, or state something that's happening in like the peripheral, there's really no motivation to use that.
Exactly.
Yeah, just working the muscle as a filmmaker to know, like, to properly know what you want, right? Because people don't know what they want. And the good thing that the stuff that we're doing at this level, as far as like actually making films, we don't have like a studio like talking over shoulder, which does bring in a lot of a lot of good directors.
Thank God.
Yeah, a lot of big directors that maybe do know what they want and don't want to shoot that extra wide or that reverse wide. Maybe they're told to or whatever. But for us, and then you work the muscle of, I know visually my style. I know how I want to execute it. I'm actually blocking this on set to make this the most efficient way to do this, and getting the shots that facilitate that blocking. And I know how it's going to edit and how it's going to cut in my head, right? Like that's.
But then you also save time too, where it's like if you grab another wide, like maybe you have to like clear a side of the room in order to like get that shot, and that's an extra like 20 minutes, and so you gotta just know what you want.
That living room scene in Good Guy, remember the breakfast scene? We were gonna have a flip the world and do a reverse wide, and we just like couldn't just for time, and so we had to just
You had to make it work.
Make it work.
You do what you got to do.
And it kind of worked better, honestly.
It did work better. I like because you were supposed to get on a Dana Dolly, I think, and go into Alric's face, and instead it was just like a push in, which saved us like 15 minutes of setting up the Dana Dolly and getting it clear and like, wiping it down whenever, like, was that, you use Lysol on that thing, or what do you use?
Oh, we it's
Pledge.
No, well, we're doing a baby powder.
Oh yeah, baby powder.
Oh yeah, that one too.
To get
That's the key grip over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby powder takes the squeak out of the dolly trap, for those who don't know.
Yeah, and we just didn't need to do that. So if you don't need to do it, you save more time. Time is money.
So
we talked. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so Bryan, so we've talked. Your 2 features, did a bunch of shorts. You have chickens. You have Good Guy with a Gun.
Yeah.
What's next? Especially with like I guess like this would be a good time to talk about like coronavirus. Like how is that screwing your career like it's screwing everybody else's career in the film industry?
It's kind of not, because working as a prop master, I don't have enough time to write, and I just had time to write and stuff, and it's been on and off for like I don't see the end date of this thing, but then I do see the end date, and so like now that like I got managers and stuff and they're pushing me to write more, I'm trying to like sell a script that I have, try to make that as my feature, but then I'm also writing a pilot, and I'm planning another alt horror short as something that I'll do if nothing else is opened up, like by the time like the beginning of the year starts, because I feel like that's where we're going, is that it won't be safe to shoot really. And so the new short film is really like small, and it's like it's a 3-person like cast, and only 2 people are in the same room at the same time. Well, actually, yeah, only 2 were in the same room at the same time, and I feel like I could pull it off. It's a good story. I've been writing it this week, so that's the plan right now. Is exercise the creative muscle while trying to get the bigger thing rolling.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean features right now are kind of like up in the air. I feel like in general
they're all up in the air, but what's even more up in the air is film festivals, because it's always been this thing of where you make your film, you make your short film, and then you make your feature film. You start the short film off, you go to film festivals, and then you go to feature. You'll always get more people to watch your movie online than you will at the film festival. You'll spend a lot of money taking it to film festivals, but if you get into that big one, it makes all the more difference for people who actually care about your work. So right now we're in this like weird predicament where a lot of these festivals aren't happening, and if they are happening, they're happening online. I had a buddy who his short film got into South by Southwest. It's the biggest thing ever for him. And it's like, damn, South by Southwest got canceled.
Yep.
And so after that, his movie just like went up on this list. And they were like, oh shit, like he won the special mention for the thing. So after that, people started to ask for the short. Motherfucker got a picture deal from it afterwards. So like the thing released online after through South by Southwest, but like it's all about like the name in which delivers it to the other production company. So I always think it's really important to go to a couple film festivals first, and then go out there into the world.
It's kind of interesting, like the film festivals going online, because I don't know if this played a part in the story you just told, but if it's like a short, there's maybe a better chance that industry people will see it if it's online film festival. If it's a big one like South by, where it's forced to go online.
And I mean, with shorts, you don't risk like the exclusivity break of like having a feature,
like having to go to Austin,
online.
Texas to see the short film,
right?
Versus an industry person could maybe they weren't going to go or whatever, and they caught it,
right? Because the point of shorts is a calling card. I mean, how often do you make shorts for any other reason besides like a style or a tribute or a calling card?
It's true.
Exactly. So it's like it's in the best interest of the short film to actually have as many eyes on it as possible.
Totally.
So, like how Whiplash was a short, and because he already wanted to be a feature, and it was like a proof of concept or whatever. I
always think of Ari Aster's the truth about the Johnsons, truth of the
something about the Johnsons.
Something strange. It's one of those names.
There's something about the Johnsons.
That movie is outstanding, and it didn't play at that many film festivals, At least none that I looked up and I could find. And it got its big break online. And so like it
And that was
played
his USC thesis film?
AFI.
Or AFI, sorry.
But yeah, like, you know, it playing online probably in festivals is actually, like, now that you say it, yeah, it probably is a big deal, because when you go to a festival and have your short film block, more times than not, dude, if you go like to a festival, it's like a smaller one, or like you go like a mid-tier one, you're gonna be sitting there with the other filmmakers and their moms and dads.
Yep. There's a bunch of kids, below 10.
It's like a comedy open mic in LA.
It's exactly what it is.
It's just other comics waiting to get up.
And then whoever brings enough people to the thing, they win the audience award, because they're all marking off the audience thing. And so at the end of the day, it's not that important if you play at the smaller ones. It's good for the laurels, but you're paying like $50 a laurel for the submission fee, and so it's only good for the bigger ones. Yeah, and then a lot of them aren't run very well either. You'll find yourself going to like Sundance, you'll realize, oh, this is how a film festival's supposed to run. And then like some other ones are just like they don't have Q&As, or they don't have anybody who's like pushing the Q&A or anything else. So it's really important to go to a big one and then go online.
I went to an international one last year, and I'm not gonna call it out by name. And like I really typically love the festival. I've gone a few times, and it was just like, it was exactly that. It was just like, I was like, hey, and of course native language is not English, so I was like, oh, like, where do I find this theater? And they're just like looking at me, and like, they don't speak English, and they're like festival helpers, and I'm like, like, so who can I like in like the nicest way possible, like, who can I talk to, like, so I like know what's I have a film screening here, I would like to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're like chasing people around.
This is Cannes after all.
You're like chasing people around, like trying to like figure out like where your film's at, what's happening, what this thing is, like, it's not a world top 5, but
not ideal.
Yeah.
I think like for people that are like up and coming filmmakers, we're trying to just burst the bubble of the illusion of the film festival to an extent. I mean, it is helpful in the big ones, but like,
especially coronavirus, especially because it's like at this point, it's like, are film festivals really worth paying for? I mean, like, I guess it's truly a subjective question and contextual too.
I spent so much money at the beginning of this year submitting to all these film festivals, and a lot of them are keeping my money and not having the festival. Cannes did that.
Ridiculous.
And then
those Frenchies.
Yeah, dude, it was not dope.
Keep your money.
It's keeps the money. You keep the money.
I think this is just more of a con specific thing. Like, this is probably just them. Like, they don't really care.
I have no problem with con. I've never been there.
I can't wait to
talking
go.
Shit.
Yeah.
I would love to go. I would love to go.
Don't ever, and for like any future listeners, like, don't forget that, like, Peter might be a producer on my movie, but like, he's not really a producer. Exactly. So like, he's not tied to the film like that. For future reference.
We all love Count except for him.
Anyways, Brian, please continue. We're talking about how the questionably useful status of film festivals in coronavirus.
It's a weird state for the way to get to like making yourself a feature director, and I'm still like going through it, but what the best thing that I've ever heard is that like it's never going to be the same for anybody. And like what it used to be was you go to film festivals, you have your movie premiere there, people start talking to you, eventually you get a manager, and eventually like you make your feature from a smaller production company, they take you on, and now it's becoming like, oh, you're going to work in TV in the beginning. You're going to start working in TV to get your name out there, and the field is so much harder, and there's just like there's ways to like break through and make yourself visible, but it just takes fucking forever.
Well, I mean, and I think some of that is the disillusionment of what we're told the path of filmmaking is, because we're still very much, and this is a thing that, people, I've heard a lot of people coin as like the lottery ticket mentality. It's like filmmakers, even in 2020, really are still kind of told like the film industry is basically like 1990. Like El Mariachi-esque, like level studios. And it's not. It's kind of like a free-for-all. It's like don't get shut down. If you're an indie film, like don't get flipped. And it's like you kind of like are just doing whatever you can to just like make sure that those like inescapable like deaths of your film, don't happen. And like people forget, like it's so hard. It's so, you have to be so emotionally committed to filmmaking, because it's like, it's not about the physical disappointments. It's about the emotional and mental disappointments of like filmmaking. And I just think that like, that's just a really important thing to touch on.
Totally, man. It's, making a movie is so incredibly hard. And every single time we do one, I feel like God is watching over us and keeping us from getting, like, Laurie Sheedy shouldn't have worked. And I mean, I've never once got a permit for one of my movies.
Half the things we've shot shouldn't have worked.
I mean, they just shouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
but they just do.
Well, you guys are gonna love Good Guy with the Gun. I mean, this is gonna be a good short.
You're gonna love it.
It's really solid.
You're gonna love it.
Watch Chickens at althorror.com.
Althorror.com.
Watch Good Guy in September.
It'll also on Alter, but it'll also be linked on althorror.com as well. So that's where you can find and stay up to date with all the shit.
And is it going to be on Alter? Is it alter.com?
I believe it's alter.com. I think it's Alter. Yeah, alter.com.
Cool.
So, Brian, just real quick, just before we leave here, I just want you to like tell the audience, because again, the audience is filmmakers and non-filmmakers. Give them your ultimate like bubble burst about our world, about like the world we live in. Like what was the most ground shaking, perspective changing experience you've had in the film industry to date?
Good question.
That's a great question. I think it was after the first two features, man. It was like thinking, I thought both of those were going to do a lot more than they did. And then after, like having to take a step back and like, I don't think I've ever had like a serious, like, I never had an ego on set or anything, but I've definitely had an ego about where I thought my career was going to be. And now I'm like actually starting to get to it, like where I want to be at, because I took a step back and was like, let's take the baby steps that will get us there and not try to like hop over the fire. I just mixed three different metaphors into one, but like,
babies walking.
No, I totally get that. You know, it's like every filmmaker needs to have like their come to Jesus, their ego death moment, your psychedelic trip moment where you realize like your movie is only important to you, and you have to be able to communicate that you understand that to your crew with a respect, and then on top of that instill your own passion into them and try to inspire and motivate them.
Totally.
Like to create that art. I mean, and again, we're talking very contextually in the form of art films, not commercial design films. And
yeah,
I have one. Okay, before we wrap this up, more of a fun question. What's the craziest or funniest set experience you've had on stuff that you've directed? If you have anything that comes to mind.
Funniest?
Some crazy.
Well, that one would spoil Chicken, so I can't do that one.
Watch Chickens at althorror.com.
Yeah, watch Chickens at althorror.com.
We've plugged that enough now, guys.
We've plugged it enough. I would say link in description.
Yeah, link in bio.
But that one's not funny because it's actually sad.
No, that's okay.
Like I know, like you may have a different answer, but like comes to mind is like we had that student film where the homeless guy walked into our set. It was like stuff like that. You know what I mean? On a big slice.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
You have anything like that? We can cut all this out.
Well, I was gonna say something like a little more interesting that I was gonna bring up earlier. Was that like I remember going back to like the first feature I did where I was gung ho and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this big movie. The movie was I was watching the dailies over time and I was just like, this isn't coming out like I thought it was gonna come out. And I remember like I still was gonna finish it, and there was a scene that like we were gonna shoot the opening of the movie, and it takes place on a bus, and so like I play this homeless guy, and I'm talking to like the lead character, and so like the opening of the movie, I show him a card trick, and I'm just like, hey, pick a card out, and he says, I show him a card, and I keep showing him cards that are not the card, and then like by the fourth time I actually show him a card, that's it, and then like I, as a homeless guy who's not very convincing as the homeless guy, I go. I never get it the first time, but I get it eventually. And I laugh at that because over the course of like my fucking career, I keep going back to that. Like I'll never get it the first time, but I'll get it eventually. And I think that's interesting because that was freshman year me talking to myself.
Mentality, like a mentality to live by, motto to live by.
Yeah,
I'll get it eventually.
I'll get it eventually.
That was good.
Yeah,
I like that.
All right, so just real quick, Bryan, where can the audience check you out? Personally, business, where can everyone find you?
althorror.com, and then you can go to Twitter. I'm at althorror, and that's where I'm at, dude. I'm at those places. That's me.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to put the links to all of Bryan's work that is available in the description. We will be consistently updating the description because it sounds like Good Guy with a Gun is going to be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
But it might not coincide with our air date. So with that being said, we will update the description.
Mm-hmm. Michael, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, MW Bachochin. That is my last name, MW Bachochin. We'll put that in the links. You can also check out our blog on theprimalgroup.us. That's the Primal Group. .us as in United States.
Me?
Pete McGee.
There's not many places. Maybe check me out on Instagram. Peter_Doyle_Murphy.
That boy Pete McGee.
Find me at connorheck.com, Instagram connorheck.dp, connorheck.dp, and follow all of our movie stuff. And I will post Chickens things and Good Guy things and Parallax things. It's all there.
Love it.
It's all happening.
All right. Thanks, Bryan. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.